Hello, friends. We're very happy to be able to share with you this morning. I'm Nayaswami Jyotish, and this is Nayaswami Devi. We're founding members of Ananda and have been teachers and participants in this work for over 50 years now. I would like to address the theme of bringing in the light into the world and as a hope for a better world. You know, mankind, and perhaps you individually, have been through one of the roughest spells in memory in this last year, with the pandemic that has come in, with the isolation, with the disruption of the economy, with all of the changes that have happened in people's lives and people's routines and so on. It's been a very, very disruptive time. And during times of disruption, especially, at all times, but especially during times of major disruption like this, we're faced with a challenge. A lot of things are challenging us. A lot of things come to us, a lot of personal adjustments, stresses that we haven't been able to see before, deal with before. And when all of that stuff is thrown at us, there are basically two ways of reacting to it. One is to contract. This is what most people do. They contract, they get defensive, they get self-protective, they get, in some cases, maybe even angry at the restrictions that the world is throwing at them. And they begin to, well, to put it bluntly, they begin to enhance and emphasize their individuality. And I want things my way, and I'm going to do things my way. All of that, what it does is it contracts our consciousness into a sense of I am important and the rest of the world is less important. And as we do that, it's just a spiritual law that the more we expand our consciousness and feel our unity with everything, the happier we are, and the more, one might say, spiritually advanced we are. After all, the term yoga means unity. It means to unify our consciousness. One could say with God, one could say with others, with the world, but the emphasis is on unification of our consciousness with the greater reality. Ultimately, the purpose of yoga, the purpose of meditation, the purpose of our spiritual path is to realize not only are we reaching toward and expanding into a greater reality, but in essence we are that greater reality. And so by emphasizing the upward flowing path and the light that happens, light can be used figuratively, as it often is. Oh, it's such a time of darkness. We need more light in the world, and it is good to emphasize the figurative aspect of a symbol like light. But why do we use light? It's because there's a deeper reality that as we expand our consciousness, especially if we do so in meditation, we actually see light. We see light in the forehead, and that light can become, as Yogananda said, it can become stronger than the blazing of 1,000,000 suns. Now that's quite an image. He said it doesn't hurt the eyes because it isn't something that is exterior to us. It's inside, but that light within us has enormous potential. And so for us to emphasize the light and to, first of all, seek it within ourselves and try to find it so that we become enlightened individuals. And if we're enlightened individuals, our actions will be enlightened. We will be in harmony with other people, will be in harmony with the laws of the universe. And we will just naturally fall into a flow of expansive, compassionate, friendly, kind energy that unites us with other people, unites us with all of everything in life, all the nature, the animals, the planet. There are so many problems, and all of these problems that we face today come from the emphasis of individual, I am more important than everything else. And that's what we really have to get away from. Now, laws aren't going to do that for us. We've seen that. We can make a law, for instance, there have been many laws in this country in this last year trying to protect the population. The laws saying you have to wear masks, you have to social distance, you have to do this, you have to do that. And unless people want to do that, they simply find a way around it, or they ignore it, or they get angry, or riots break out and fights break out because they want to emphasize my individual rights and I don't care about others. And as that happens, and I'm not talking here only about the pandemic, it happens in the way that we treat the environment, in the way that we treat others of different races or of different religious persuasions or of different national backgrounds. All of that separation creates darkness, and that darkness and separation and individual, one might say, refusal to expand our consciousness, that is the root cause of all of the problems that we are facing today. And so the hope for a better world relies on us expanding our consciousness. It can't be done, as I said, about laws, but other aspects too. You can't have a hope for a better world by relying on the government to fix this problem or to do that. You can't have a hope for a better world by being angry at the actions of others. You can't have hope without having hope. And hope implies your own. Hope isn't something exterior to you. It is an attitude. It is an internal process. So the change that we want to see in the world has to start with us. It has to start with our attitudes. It has to start with our sense of how we're going to behave. So how do we get there? That's the real question. How do we make those internal changes? Well, Devi and I have practiced meditation along with thousands and thousands of others. And we've practiced meditation our whole adult life. Meditation is the single best thing that we can do, because in deep meditation, the whole purpose of it is to feel our unity with God, our unity with God's creation, our unity with the people in God's creation, all of whom we see as we see ourselves as simply a projection of God's consciousness. We're all united in this. We're all one. We are all brothers and sisters of our one common Father. And if we would simply begin to treat each other that way, that enlightened attitude and the enlightened actions that spring from it will bring not only hope for a better world, but it will bring a better world. And by practicing first for ourselves, uplifting our consciousness, seeing things in a positive way, everything that's presented to us, we can see it as a positive element in our lives or a negative element in our lives. Now, I'm not saying that everything's going to be easy. Things are often very hard, but we can see difficult times as coming to us for our own growth, for our own expansion, trying to nudge us out of this self-made ruts that we're in, of thinking, of feeling, of actions, and get us to change and expand. So those hard times come because we won't willingly move out of our old patterns. You've probably heard and know about the law of karma. Whatever we put out is going to come out back to us. If we put out anger, we'll get angry responses back. Swami Kriyananda, our lifelong teacher, used a beautiful image that, let's say that we have had a long period of time where we have reacted angrily to things, and we've put out that anger into the universe, and the echo of that is going to return to us in the form of anger. And so if we're still acting in an angry way, we're still moving in that direction, then that echo is going to come back, and we're going to smack into each other, and whatever happens is going to be amplified. But if we change our direction, and now we have sent out, first we're moving in this direction angry, we've sent out that echo, but now it's coming back, but we've changed our direction. Now it comes back, and maybe somebody just gets a little upset with us instead of starts screaming with us and fires us from our job. See, the law of karma always works in such a way that it's trying to help us improve, help us move in a certain direction. So all of this is to say that these difficult times are of great, great value. In fact, this past year may be the most important year spiritually of your whole life, because the changes that you've been forced to make, if you've made them in the right direction, will be much greater when we're quite ill and we realize that we have a chronic illness. Sometimes that forces us to make changes in diet or exercise or some kind of a health benefit. And so we should take hard times as something that is trying to teach us a lesson. And these hard times of this period that we have been going through is exactly that. It's been trying to teach us a lesson. And if we will accept that lesson, if we will expand our consciousness, then we will find ourselves to be happier, more fulfilled individuals. And that aura of positive, fulfilled happiness will spread first to those around us, then in ever-widening circles, especially if we band together with others doing the same thing. There will be ever-widening circles until this light will spread out, and it will actually change the world that we live in. So please, I urge you, friends, if you don't already meditate, take up the practice. If you don't already reach out to others, begin to reach out to others. Do all of those things. It's so simple. Jesus said it so simply. He said, do unto others that which you would have them do unto you. If you can do that, you will indeed bring hope for a better world and great light into this world.
Hello, friends. We're so glad we could be a part of the Yogananda Fest for Los Angeles. For the past number of years, we've been able to come in person, but this year we'll just be visiting you remotely. But we are still happy to be with our many new friends and old friends in part of Ananda, Los Angeles. So the Yogananda Fest this year is also tied with Paramahansa Yogananda's Mahasamadhi on March 7th, when he left this world, 1952 it was, at the Biltmore Hotel. And what he brought to the world is a message that becomes more and more relevant as time goes by. I became a disciple of Master in 1969 and read Autobiography of a Yogi. And at that time, for me personally, it was what I had been seeking all my life. His message, his teachings, the practice of meditation, his vision of world brotherhood communities, and his message of global unity. But in these years since I first came on the path, I see that his message has become more and more not only relevant, but essential to cure the ills that are beleaguering our planet, humanity, different nations, and so forth. And so when we speak of strengthening the light, hope for a better world, what does that imply? When I thought of this topic, I thought, well, how is something strengthened? You think about going to the gym and doing a pumping iron, lifting weights to strengthen your muscles and build your strength. And how does that work? It works by, on a certain level, stressing the muscles, stressing those tissues so that they have to respond with greater strength. And so we look at the world around us and we see, yes, we are being stressed. We are being challenged. The light within us, the light within everyone, every entity on this planet is being stressed and challenged. But as we've been saying, it's not punishment. It isn't to hurt us, but it's for us to strengthen our own spiritual being, the light within us. And that only can be done in challenging times. I know when I look back at my years on the path, of course one's life seems to go in cycles where there will be good times, easy times, joyful times, and then challenging, difficult times. But when one looks back, I can clearly recognize that it's been the times of greatest challenge where I called on God the most, where I needed him the most, where I called on Divine Mother and said, you must be with me now. I cannot do this alone. By my own strength, I can't do it. And so these are such times that we find ourselves in. And we can go one of two ways. We can go into cynicism and withdrawal and despair, or we can deepen our connection with higher realities, with God, with Guru, if you have that relationship. As we said earlier, yoga means union. And Yogananda, he chose the monastic name. Ananda means bliss, joy, supernal joy. So bliss through union of the individual soul with God, but a vision of world unity that is just what's needed. And you can feel it under the surface. It's nascent, it's trying to be born. And then the big egos come in and they say, no, this is my country and we're different from your country and we don't want to cooperate with your country or trade or whatever it is. But that's underneath the surface. You can feel the new energy rising. And that energy is one of a vision of world unity, the vision that Yogananda brought. Several years ago, Jyotish and I received the honor on behalf of Ananda to receive at the United Nations an award as Global Peace Ambassadors. And when we were giving a little acceptance speech for this award, I brought with me Yogananda's little book of prayers, metaphysical meditations. And it was one of the most deeply thrilling moments of my life, probably the most, past, present, in this lifetime, that I read Yogananda's prayer for a united world at the United Nations. And his words echoed there in that center, that area where a vision of a new world reality is trying to be born, struggling but still trying. And but it does come back to our individual struggle to overcome the darkness. Yoganandaji said, changing yourself is your responsibility, is your part in changing the world. Changing yourself is your part in changing the world. So it makes it simple, doesn't it? We just have to, we feel helpless, don't we? It's so easy to feel an insignificant, unnoticed, unimportant nonentity in this world of great global powers. But it's not true, my friend. One soul standing in the light can do more good for humanity than thousands of politicians arguing in self-interest. And so, how do we strengthen the light within us? Well, one way is to look at the challenges we face and with determination, never, never give up. Jyotish and I write a weekly blog called A Touch of Light, which you can subscribe to. And in a recent blog that I wrote, I shared a story from the life of Yogananda's most advanced disciple, Rajarsi Janakananda. And at the end of Rajarsi's life, he had many exalted experiences. He experienced a state of samadhi, of union with God, just a few years after being with Yogananda. And he would see great light and just had many profound mystical experiences. But then a time came towards the end of his life where it all was gone. In an instant, that inner light vanished, and it was just darkness. And he began to doubt, was any of this real? Was I just imagining it? But there was a man of strong character, as we all must be. And he said, no, even if all those experiences are taken from me, I will not give up. I will remain true to what I have chosen as my life direction. And he continued to meditate and continued to offer himself to God and to his guru. And then at a certain point, a teeny tiny little spark of light appeared within his inner vision. And he focused on that little light, and it kept expanding and drawing closer and closer. And then the light transformed into Shri Yukteswar, and then Lahiri, Mahashaya, and then Babaji, and finally Master. And then he became totally absorbed into the light, and he became one with the infinite, and he never left that state. So this is an exalted experience, but it's also a lesson for all of us, because when we doubt what we know to be true, what we have experienced, when we listen to the world and say, oh, hope isn't possible, a better world isn't possible, if we listen to those voices, we diminish the most important thing that we have, and that's the spark of the divine within us. But if we say, maybe I don't experience it, maybe I don't see the light, maybe I don't feel God's presence, but nonetheless, I will continue. That's the key, my friends. Determination, dedication, devotion, that's what transforms us in the end. And that's what strengthens the light within us. And as each one of us strengthen that light within us, then the world begins to transform. And we begin to see this better world that we know is possible, a world of unity and acceptance of people of all races, all religions, all creeds, all nationalities, because we are all one. The differences are only superficial. But in truth, the more we experience the reality of our own being, that divine light that shines within us, the more we see it in everyone, and the more we know that that is the only reality. Yogananda used to look at his disciples, lovingly blessing them, and he would say, If you only knew how beautiful you are. I see you all as beings of light. That's how the great ones see us. And so, my friends, in your moments of darkness and doubt, try to cling to that truth. As Jyotish was saying, meditation is a great aid because it helps you to experience that truth, but also a direct devotional relationship with God and Guru in the moments of darkness to call on them. And your prayers will be answered. I have experienced this many times in my life because sometimes people think, oh, your lives have been easy and so forth. Believe me, anybody who's been on the path for any length of time, their life has not been easy, but they have been triumphant. They have been victorious in the fact that they just kept trying. And so, my friends, make the effort, learn to meditate if you don't know, practice meditation. If you are already doing it, continue. But more important of all, give your love to God and Guru and call on them to strengthen the light within you and in all people.